Today I'm delighted to be able to share with you this Venom Pinball machine. It's the Pro version from Stern, and before I even start, I've got to thank our channel sponsors, Pinball Heaven, who have sent me down this game in order for me to review and to play. Now, I've got to be perfectly honest with you, from the outset, it's only here for a couple of days. It's come down and then it's going to go out to its new home, which is in Retroids in Worcester. There's actually 2 Retroids in Worcester, or at least there will be by the time the end of this week happens, which is why this is going down for the opening of the new Retroids. So if you want to play this, get yourself down there. So yeah, thank you to Pinball Heaven, thank you to Phil for sending this down. I'm thrilled to get this, and for a number of reasons. But let me just take you through it first of all. I'll give you my first impressions. Then what I want to do is, during the video, I'll pop up clips of various parts of this game, and I'll also hopefully show you a little bit of gameplay. But there will be a separate gameplay video if I haven't uploaded it already. First thing to say about this game is it's stunning. The artwork on it is stunning looking. Probably amongst my favourite colours is a sort of purple, lilac, those sort of colours. I love them. Well, you can see I've even got my my acoustic foam. A lot of it is done in that colour. So long overdue that a machine was done in this, and I think this is the Pro version, has the best artwork from what I've seen anyway. You can see, I believe it's Zombie Yeti artwork. I mean, he's so talented at drawing. He's absolutely brilliant. Now, it's fair to say that this pinball machine has received bad press. I think it's fair to say that, both on the UK forum, Pinball Info, on the US forum, on Pinside. This game has not been well received. And I wanted to really give it every chance that I could. So let me tell you what I'd heard about this game before I'd actually managed to get it here and managed to play it. I'd heard that it was too fast, or very fast, that the shots were very, very tight, and that the video mode was awful. Now, I can attest to 2 of those things being absolutely untrue. The video mode is awful, by the way, but the shots are nowhere near as tight as I thought they were. They're actually quite open, and it's always going to need to see a pinball machine for yourself for terms of scale. But I mean, hopefully the captive ball on the game will show you just how wide they are. And I haven't had trouble hitting any of these shots at all. So first of all, the shots are very, very makeable on this game. In terms of the game being fast, I don't think so. I don't mind a fast game if I can see the ball coming. I think where I struggle with a game is if once the ball comes out, the pop bumpers or the slingshots are throwing it around and then it becomes very fast, then I struggle. I'll give a great example, would be, for me, Stranger Things, which ironically is the same designer. I think the way that comes off of certain obstacles in the game and things like the slingshots, it's uncontrollable. I don't really have a problem with the orbits being fast, because that's ultimately the trajectory of the ball is predictable, so it's up to me to try and time it, and that's down to my skill level. So I think the shots are quite generous in terms of the aperture of the opening of each shot and each ramp, and I don't think it is too fast. I'm not going to spend any time dwelling on the video mode, because we actually covered it in a separate video. Realistically, this is a difficult game for me to be drawn in by, because the theme does nothing for me at all. In the same way that Avengers Infinity Quest did nothing for me at all. In fact, I would suggest this is worse. As the Stern fan, can you hear it? You guys need to sort this out. These fans, it wouldn't take much, honestly. This is very difficult for me, because I think all these guys look the same. I've mentioned it in another video. They all basically look like Spider-Man to me. Spider-Man with teeth. And as I understand it, Spider-Man does have something to do with this. Peter Parker does. I'm not sure. I find it completely confusing. So what I found myself doing with this, because the theme is not attractive to me, and because I don't understand the theme, I'm finding myself, the playfield doesn't explain the rules to me, which is what I think a theme should do. A theme should explain the rules. I've discussed it numerous times on other videos. And because I don't really know who Carnage is, I don't really know Venom is, I think the whole process of it's quite convoluted. So Venom is a parasite, and he infects a host. And at the start, it will ask you to select which host you want to infect. It's just quite tenuous as far as I'm concerned. So I'm finding the theme is not drawing me in. So what I've been doing on this is just hitting shots realistically, and as I've been going along, trying to find out what information the game offers me. And the shots are very enjoyable, I have to say. I think the shots are really, really good on it. Now, this is a simple playfield. It's a simple layout. It's bare. It's a very bare, open, stripped-down game, is what I think. However, the ramps are really good, and they have these lock-in mechanisms on them, which will allow the balls will run down the ramps and the balls will get locked inside. Now, ordinarily, that is something that may slow the game up. For instance, I hate the way the game gets slowed in Star Wars, which we probably need any amount of slowing you can get in Star Wars. I'm talking about the Stern version. But the way the posts pop up and stop it, I dislike it. I detested it in, what am I thinking, an Iron Maiden. Near the back, there was, I might have it wrong, might be sarcophagus lock or something like that. I may have that wrong. But any time you'd go round there, the ball would lock it. It would stop it. It would stop the flow of the game. I hated it. They've done a really good job with this, whereby even though the ball is getting locked, straight away it will offer you another ball. So it will just keep the flow going. Very smart, very clever. That works, and works a real treat. So I really like that aspect of it. You've also got this guy up the top who's, I thought it was Spider-Man. It's not. It's Carnage. I think his name's Carnage. Now, what you have a captive ball, which is basically like a Newton ball at the moment. You hit one of them, the ball rolls up, and you will push. It's a smash toy. I think it's pretty cool. And you push him all the way to the back. That is a neat toy. That really is. I know I've seen some people arguing as to whether it's a mechanism or it's not. I don't overly want to get drawn into the semantics of it. Whether it's probably not a mechanism. Is it mechanised? Possibly not. I don't know. I haven't had the playfield up and taken a look. But I enjoy it. It is enjoyable. And then you'll also notice in the middle of this game, there is a bell tower, which is an okay shot. I just wish the bell would ding. I think when I've seen it, it's ornamental more than anything. The target's at the bottom. Whereas, you know, on an AC/DC, you feel like you're actually hitting the bell, aren't you, on that game? I couldn't attest to whether or not whether the premium has a dinging bell. I wouldn't know. What I do know is in the premium, it has an extra mechanism which sort of swings out here and gives you additional shots. I think that in itself would make this game more populated. I've got to say, in terms of invention on the shots, this is sadly lacking, and I want to separate that from what I said about the ball locks, which I think is very, very good. This is a very, very basic layout that we're seeing here. It sort of reminds me of the road system in Milton Keynes, quite frankly. No offence if you're from Milton Keynes. Of course, probably have managed to offend somebody there, haven't I? It's too simple. It's too easy. That I don't feel it's giving me too much. But I don't find it overly difficult. I think compared to the last new Stern I had here, which was Foo Fighters, there's no comparison in the shots. Foo Fighters, in terms of the fun layout, and I say fun, not fan, in terms of the fun layout, Foo Fighters is infinitely better in terms of interesting shots than this game. In many respects, I couldn't help but look at this game and think, you know, there's that fan again. We've seen it all before. We really have seen it all before. And it's quite funny, actually. Having this game here has made me realise quite how good a game Foo Fighters is, both in terms of the rule set, both in terms of how the theme is teaching you how to progress through the game on Foo Fighters, in terms of the call-outs, in terms of the animations and the shots. There's no comparison. There really, really isn't. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting this is all bad at all, but it does feel stripped down. We've got one target on either side of the playfield. I could just, you know, I could do with a little bit more to be fair on it. And I understand on the premium you are getting a bit more on this. It shoots really well. Sorry, I'm mindful I'm being a little bit negative on this game, and I should also give it a disclaimer. This is running, because some of you lot are eagle-eyed. It is running the original code, which can probably be you'll see from at some point when we're scrolling through on the on the screen here. This is going to develop. This is absolutely going to get better. But there's good shots and they're rewarding shots. This middle ramp that loops all the way around to here, it feels good to hit it. It really does. This other ramp here on the left-hand side feels really good. The orbits are excellent on this game. They really are. The inner loop, it's okay. It's an okay inner loop. It's not quite as good as the Avengers Infinity Quest one, which I really like that as an inner loop. It's not quite as good as Star Wars. Just this sort of horseshoe shot here. Not bad at all, though. It's not bad at all, but it's very, very generous. There's no doubt about it. This game shoots well, and it is absolutely fun to shoot. So I don't want to be too negative about this at all. But I can't help but look at the playfield and think, I've seen it all before. And that's fine. You can have that. You can have that because, as I often mention at the moment, Big Lebowski, which is just an awesome game in every respect. But you don't look at Big Lebowski and think, oh, now there's a shot I haven't seen before. Big Lebowski is more or less a fan layout. Yes, it's got an upper playfield, granted. But the shots are relatively simple. I think the difference with that is that there's so many toys. It's so packed. There's so much other stuff going on that it's fine. The fact that the shots are relatively simple is all building towards something. Because I've not had this game for long, because I'm not into the theme, it's really hard for it's hard for me for this theme to draw me in the way that Lebowski would. Also, let's be fair. I think it's worth pointing out that in the States, this game is probably less than a pro version is probably less than half the price of Big Lebowski. Now, that's obviously not the case in the UK, but in the States, this is probably half the price of a Big Lebowski. So it's unfair. It's unfair to compare them. It really, really is. In fact, in many respects, it's closer to a Super Hoops than a Big Lebowski, far more in terms of price. I'm just really starting to get my head around the fact that Sterns are budget pinball machines. They are. In the States, they're cheap. It's in the UK, they're expensive. In the States, they're cheap. And actually, for a budget pinball machine, which is what this is in this Pro version, it's pretty good. And I do want to differentiate there because I'm very, very grateful for the more and more people watch this channel. Very grateful. I am mindful. I'm speaking to not just the UK pinball community, but people in the US as well. So I must say that at $5,000 or whatever it might be, and I've probably got my prices wrong. This is a good game. It is a good game. I must say, I would have Foo Fighters ahead of this, absolutely. If you're considering one or the other, I often say I don't want to influence your decision too much. I would, unless you are an absolute mega fan, super fan of Venom, get Foo Fighters. I'd probably get James Bond before I got this. But this isn't the worst Stern Spike 2. It's really not. And I'm aware that it's taken a bit of stick, it's taken a bit of flack, it's taken a bit of a kicking. In many respects, I think this is a poor man's Avengers Infinity Quest. The convoluted characters, the battles, the fact that something that really annoys me on a pinball machine is when the text is bigger than the insert. So, for instance, we have, and I actually need my glasses here, we have an insert which I'm looking at there. It says 2 times experience. The actual graphics that say 2 times experience are 3 times bigger than the light. I want to be able to see a light in my periphery. When I'm playing a game, at the corner of my eye, and I'll go back to Attack from Mars, as I often do, I'm in no doubt when I'm playing Attack from Mars what light is lit. The playfield is telling me what my progress is. There's a lot of the lights at the bottom of the playfield are very, very small here. I definitely think that's something that I found prevalent on Avengers Infinity Quest as well, particularly when you looked on this side of the playfield. You had that little grid system by the targets there. I don't think that was particularly great. And pinball's fast, right? I mean, you're doing everything fast. You're playing fast, you're looking fast, you want to catch something out the corner of your eye. I don't want to be having to study something or having to cradle the ball necessarily so I can look at the playfield. Some of us, myself included, are not skillful enough to cradle the ball mid-game. I find the rules quite complex, but I think they're certainly more simple than than Avengers Infinity Quest. I've no doubt about that. The apron card itself is relatively simple in terms of selecting a host and the multi-ball, and in terms of carnage, in terms of the battles, it's okay. It really is okay. I think the trouble is in terms of the animations. It's just those 2D. It's those 2D photoshopped graphics where you have one still image moving above another still image. That's what they are. They're drawings. I would very much contest whether they're animations or not. I'd consider them to be drawings rather than animations. Whereas I very much consider on Foo Fighters, I think you get in animations. It just feels that a lot more love was put into Foo Fighters than was put into this game. And I don't mean as a slight towards Brian Eddy, who's been an amazing pinball designer, and I couldn't praise Attack from Mars any more highly than I have done. Really, I think it's probably the greatest game ever made. And unfortunately, I just don't think this is up to the standard of that. What I would say is there's a few people have said this is a sort of bog standard Brian Eddy design. Not from my point of view, and I think there are certainly a lot of people who know far more about pinball than I do. I don't ever claim to have been in the hobby for years and years. I started collecting pinball machines in 2018, although I've been playing them for a lot longer. If what we're going to do is we're going to compare this bell tower to the castle or the flying saucer, or even the demi vagina in Stranger Things, I think. No, I can't. There's not a big target. I don't. There's nothing grand happening here. I'm not feeling any reward for hitting this bell tower, but that's fine. By the way, maybe that isn't. Maybe it's this Carnage dude here. I definitely feel a reward for doing that. I think ultimately for me, because I don't like the theme, I think this machine lacks heart. And when I do my top 50, I often ask if a machine has charm and warmth and personality. I don't feel this does, for me, anyway. But I do think it's a good shooter. So that's not the same. And I do like to differentiate. Is this a great pinball machine? I think not. I think it's too bare. I think it's too stripped down. I don't think there's enough innovation going on in it.